I remember the day I realized anger was a thief. Not the kind that kicks in your door and takes your valuables, but the kind that steals from you quietly, robbing your judgment, your opportunities, and your peace of mind. It happened on a humid summer afternoon, in a meeting that should have gone my way, but didn't. And not because the facts weren't on my side, but because I let my temper run ahead of my thinking. That day taught me a truth I carry with me to this very hour. Real strength isn't in raising your voice. It's in keeping your head when the world is trying to make you lose it. I, Napoleon Hill, have met many men who thought holding back their anger made them weak. They believed that staying calm in the face of insult meant they were being walked over. I used to think the same. But time, observation, and a few painful lessons showed me the opposite. Hiding irritation isn't strength, that's pretending. True strength is feeling every emotion, even the ugly ones, and still choosing how you respond. It's refusing to let someone else's bad behavior decide the quality of your thinking. Anger feels powerful in the moment. Your pulse quickens, your voice gets loud, your presence seems bigger. But here's the truth: anger is a mask for loss of control. The second you let fury take the wheel, you hand over the keys to your own peace. And once that happens, the other person isn't just winning the argument, they're winning you. The great oak in the storm. Think of a great oak tree standing in a violent storm. The wind howls, rain lashes its leaves, and yet its trunk doesn't sway much at all. Why? Because its roots are deep, anchored in solid ground. That's what composure is, deep roots. While others rage, you stay steady. Your voice remains level. Your thoughts stay clear. And because of that, you see the situation for what it is, not what your emotions try to convince you it is. When you control your emotions, you control the situation. It's that simple, and that hard. The fire that burns the holder anger is like grabbing a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone. Who gets burned first? You.it clouds your judgment. It makes you say things you later wish you hadn't. It can destroy opportunities that may never return. And worst of all, it can damage relationships that took years to build, sometimes beyond repair. Calmness, on the other hand, is like clear water. It lets you see right to the bottom of the problem. When you're calm, you can speak wisely and act with purpose. People trust those who stay steady when things get rough. The pause that changes everything. So how do you get this kind of strength? It begins with one simple habit: pause before you react. When someone says something sharp to you, don't fire back right away. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the first wave of heat pass. Imagine that you are a rock in a stream, letting the water rush over you without moving you from your place. Once you feel the tension ease, even just a little, choose your words as carefully as a master craftsman chooses his finest tools. And remember this truth: no one can force you to be angry. They can try to push you, but you're the only one who decides whether to open that door or keep it locked. The Carnegie Way. Andrew Carnegie, one of the greatest industrialists of his time, had a remarkable quality: his calm. No matter what criticism or insult came his way, he refused to let it provoke him. Carnegie believed that losing your temper wasted energy that could be used for something far more valuable: thinking clearly and acting with purpose. When challenged or attacked, he would pause, reflect, and respond with careful, measured words. This habit didn't just protect his peace of mind, it made him a better leader. It allowed him to turn potential conflicts into opportunities for progress. He knew that calmness was like armor. It protected him from the arrows of harsh words. The armor you build from within. When you master your emotions, you become someone others look to for guidance. People know how hard it is to stay calm when provoked, so they respect those who can do it. True power isn't the loudest voice in the room. It isn't the sharpest insult or the most dramatic reaction. True power is the quiet, unshakable composure of a person who chooses peace over war, wisdom over fury, and control over chaos. It's a power no one can hand you. You have to build it from within. And once you have it, no storm, no insult, and no provocation can take it away. Next, in part 2, we'll talk about another common trap: believing every criticism you hear is the truth. I'll show you how to separate helpful feedback from the noise of other people's fears, jealousy, and misunderstandings. If you like, I can now continue part 2 immediately in the same engaging story style so the full 6-part series flows seamlessly. Do you want me to continue with part 2 now? Part 2, the pride trap and the daily choice of peace. Who gets a curious thing? How quickly we'll leap into battle just to prove no one can disrespect us. I've watched men ruin their careers, their marriages, and even their health over a few words spoken in anger by someone they barely knew. They called it defending their honor. I call it something else, selling your peace for pennies. I once knew an old man who taught me that the most dignified victories are silent. He showed me that true power isn't in winning arguments, but in needing no argument at all. Pride that costs too much. Many people carry their pride like a fragile glass vase, afraid someone might bump into it and break it. They say things like, "I can't let them disrespect me," as if their self-worth were hanging by a single thread that a stranger's words could cut. This way of thinking leads to countless unnecessary battles that cost far more than the original insult. The wise have always known that true dignity cannot be touched by the words or actions of others. It lives deep inside you, like a steady flame burning in a glass lantern, safe from the storms raging outside. The moment you decide to fight every slight, you hand over the strings of your mood to strangers. You let their words pull you this way and that, like a puppet dancing for an audience that doesn't care. If your worth could be damaged by insults, you'd be in constant danger every time a fool opened his mouth. But your real value comes from your actions, your character, your integrity. Things no one can take from you unless you willingly give them away by losing control of yourself. The mountain and the pebbles. You must become like a mountain. At its base, small creatures may scurry around, shouting, throwing pebbles, trying to get a reaction. But the mountain does not move. It doesn't waste energy responding to every noise at its feet. Hold yourself to your standard, not the ones others try to impose on you. The elder in the marketplace. Let me tell you a story. In a small village, there lived an elder known for wisdom and kindness. For decades, he settled disputes, offered counsel, and quietly helped those in need. His reputation was built not on loud speeches but on years of steady, good work. One day, a young man came to the village. He was proud, loud, and eager to make a name for himself. When he saw how much respect the elder received, he burned with jealousy. One afternoon, in the busy marketplace, he mocked the old man in front of a crowd, calling him slow, outdated, even useless. All eyes turned to the elder. The elder could have listed his many accomplishments. He could have cut the young man down with sharp words. He could have turned the crowd against this arrogant newcomer. Instead, he simply looked at the young man with calm, steady eyes, nodded politely, and walked away. Some in the crowd whispered that maybe the elder had grown weak. Others wondered if the insults had some truth. But the elder carried on with his life, unshaken. Time as the great revealer. Years passed. The young man's boast proved hollow. His promises failed. His arrogance drove people away. Meanwhile, the elder kept doing what he had always done, helping quietly, speaking truth when needed, living with the same principles. Eventually, the young man's own schemes collapsed. Alone and humbled, he sought out the very elder he once mocked. He arrived with shame in his heart, asking for guidance and forgiveness. The elder welcomed him with kindness, offered wise counsel, and never once mentioned the insults from years before. That day, the young man understood something he'd been too proud to see. True dignity is untouchable. The elder had lost nothing by walking away from that marketplace challenge, but the young man had lost years to foolish pride. The lesson: pride built on calm confidence is stronger than pride built on retaliation. When you know your worth, you don't have to prove it to everyone who questions it. When your reputation is built on consistent good actions, it can't be destroyed by the angry words of those who know nothing about you. Your temper is a poor defender. It often does more damage than the insult you're reacting to. The high path will always protect you better than the mud others want to drag you into. The daily practice of peace. Most people think peace is a treasure you find once and keep forever. They imagine that once they fix their problems, reach their goals, or settle their relationships, they'll finally arrive at a permanent state of calm. But life doesn't work that way. The world changes daily. New challenges, new insults, new pressures appear. If your peace depends on everything going smoothly, it will vanish the moment life throws a storm in your direction. Peace is not a destination, it's a decision you make every single day. Especially on the days when life tests you the most. Morning armor every morning. Before the day's demands come knocking, you choose your mental armor. Will you leave your peace exposed, ready for the first rude driver, harsh comment, or bad piece of news to snatch it away? Or will you decide, before you even walk out the door, that your peace belongs to you and you alone? The people I've studied who live with deep calm don't have perfect lives. They have daily habits that protect their inner state. They start the day with clarity, reminding themselves that the only battles worth fighting are the ones that align with their values and goals. The farmer's field. Think of peace like a farmer's field. If you tend to it daily, pulling out weeds, watering it, protecting it from pests, it stays healthy and fruitful. But if you ignore it, weeds grow fast, and pests take over. Soon, there's nothing left to harvest. Your peace works the same way. Every morning, you must pull out the weeds of resentment before they grow deep roots. Every evening, you must let go of the day's frustrations before they harden into bitterness. A choice, not a gift. Peace will never just happen because circumstances are perfect. It will only appear because you chose it in spite of imperfect circumstances. It's the choice to let insults pass you by. It's the choice to walk away from useless battles. It's the choice to guard your time and energy as treasures not to be squandered. Each choice strengthens the fortress around your mind. Each choice makes the next one easier. Closing thought for part 2. Your dignity is not on trial every time someone challenges you. Your peace is not up for auction to the highest bidder in the marketplace of insults. Guard them both. Walk away when walking away is the wisest thing. Because in the end, no one can drag you into the mud, unless you choose to step down into it yourself. Next in part 3, we'll explore why criticism is almost never the truth about you, and how to separate the kind that builds you from the kind that tries to break you, if you'd like. I can now continue with part 3 in the exact same Napoleon Hill story style so your series stays consistent and powerful. Do you want me to move straight to part 3? Part 3, fed with attention and care, or it will wither when cold winds blow. This realization changes everything, because if your peace depended on the behavior of others, you would lose it endlessly. Your calm would vanish every time someone spoke with rudeness, every time plans unraveled, every time the world failed to match your expectations. You would live like a leaf blown about by shifting winds, never finding solid ground. But when you understand that peace grows from within, that it springs from your own choices rather than the actions of others, you unlock a power no one can take away. You become like a deep, clear well that offers fresh water whether the skies bring sunshine or storm. How do you cultivate this daily practice of peace? You begin each morning with a quiet but firm decision. Nothing outside of me will control what happens inside of me today. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means you choose your responses rather than letting the world choose them for you. Picture a wise gardener who has spent years creating a lush, thriving garden. Flowers bloom in every season, vegetables feed his family. Herbs bring both flavor and healing. His garden is the product of patient work and constant care. One afternoon, dark clouds gather. The wind rises, and he sees a fierce storm rolling toward his land. He knows he cannot stop it. No one can command the sky. Yet he does not stand frozen in dread. He moves with purpose. He covers tender plants, secures his tools, checks the roots and drainage of his strongest growth. Then he steps inside his home to wait. The storm comes in all its fury. The wind howls, rain lashes the earth, thunder shakes the ground. But inside, the gardener is calm. He has done all he could. When morning breaks, the damage is there, yes, but the garden still lives. Because of his preparation, most plants have survived. Soon, fresh shoots appear, and before long, the garden is more beautiful than before. This is how you must face the storms of life. Harsh words will strike like lightning. Unfair treatment will fall like hail. Troubles will blow through without warning. You cannot stop these storms, but you can protect your inner garden. Guard this sacred space. Do not let another's anger uproot your calm. Do not let disappointment flood the soil where your hope grows. Keep your purpose firmly rooted, even when circumstances try to rip it away. Some days, tending this inner garden will feel effortless, like watering flowers on a sunny morning. Other days will demand hard work, like replanting after a storm. But every day, it requires choice. Over time, you will notice that fewer storms shake you deeply. You will stand like an ancient tree with roots sunk so deep that even the fiercest wind cannot topple you. That is the strength peace offers, not the absence of storms, but the power to remain standing through them. 7. Resilience over reaction. Many think resilience is only about pushing through pain, gritting teeth, taking blow after blow, refusing to fall. This has value, but it tells only half the story. True resilience is also the wisdom to avoid wasting energy on needless battles. It is knowing which fights matter, and which distractions only drain your strength. The strongest people are not those who meet every challenger head-on, but those who choose their battles so carefully that they have the strength left for what truly matters. Every burst of anger over a petty slight steals energy that could have been used to build your future. Every hour spent arguing with fools is an hour stolen from your dreams. Your energy is like water in a well. You can pour it out on every small irritation, leaving yourself empty in a drought. Or you can guard it, using it only for the crops that will feed your life and the gardens that will bloom for years. When trouble comes, and it always will, ask yourself, will responding to this help me reach my goal, or will it only make me feel momentarily satisfied while costing me time and strength? Picture a skilled mason hired to build a stone wall around a great estate. Each morning, he arrives with his tools and begins his careful work. Every stone must be chosen, shaped, and set with precision. One day, children from the village gather to watch. At first, they are curious. Soon, boredom turns to mischief. They throw pebbles at him, shout insults, hoping to see him lose his temper. The mason faces a choice. He could drop his tools, chase the children, argue with their parents. He could shout back, proving he will not be mocked. But he knows something the children do not. His wall matters, their game does not. So he simply adjusts his hat, lifts another stone, and continues his work. Eventually, the children tire of trying to provoke him. They wander away, their pebbles forgotten in the grass. Months later, the wall stands complete, strong, beautiful, built to last for generations. The children have long forgotten their game. But the mason's work remains, a silent monument to focus and patience. This is the choice resilience gives you daily. You can let distractions pull you off course, or you can keep building. The strongest are not those who win every small argument, but those who save their strength for what truly matters. 8. Self-belief silences noise. Many believe that to feel confident, everyone must agree with their choices and support their dreams. They search for approval like beggars seeking bread, always looking for signs they are on the right path. But this makes them weak and dependent, at the mercy of changing moods and shifting opinions. The truth is liberating. When you have genuine belief in yourself, agreement from others becomes a luxury, not a requirement. Their criticism may sting, but it no longer controls you, because your worth is built on something far stronger, your own proven trust in yourself. When you truly trust yourself, outside opinions lose their sharp edge. They become like rain on a well-built roof, making noise, but never seeping in. You stop dancing to the music of others' expectations and move to the steady rhythm of your own inner compass. How do you grow this unshakable strength? The answer is simple, but powerful. Keep every promise you make to yourself, no matter how small. If you say you will wake up early tomorrow, do it. If you promise to read for 30 minutes each night, keep that promise. If you decide to walk a certain distance each day, take those steps. Each kept promise is like a drop of water filling a deep well. Each completed commitment lays another stone in the foundation of self-trust. Over time, you will carry within you a certainty that no outside voice can undermine. Because you will have proven to yourself, again and again, that you can rely on you. And when you trust yourself at that level, the noise of the world fades into the background. You no longer need to shout your worth, defend it to strangers, or chase the approval of those who do not understand your vision. You will simply live it. If you want, I can also merge parts 2 and 3 seamlessly into one flowing chapter so it reads like a single, unified piece rather than separate sections. That way, the tone, pacing, and transitions would feel completely natural. Would you like me to do that? Command your morning. Part 4. The alarm clock does not command you. The sun rising does not command you. Even the endless to-do list does not command you. You do. That is the essence of a powerful morning. You decide what enters your mind, where your attention goes, and how you will shape the hours ahead. Today's focus is simple, but life-changing. Own your attention, own your energy, own your day. 1. Guard your first 5 minutes like treasure. The first 5 minutes after you wake up are like the soft clay of a sculpture. They are not hardened yet. They are ready to be shaped. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, check the news, scroll through social media, or open your email, you've already handed the sculpting tool to someone else. Someone you don't even know now decides what you will think about, worry about, and focus on. Guard those first 5 minutes. Fill them with silence, or prayer, or gratitude, or simply breathing in the day and saying, I am here. I am ready. This is my day. Because here's the truth. If you let noise own the first 5 minutes, it will own the rest of the day. 2. The 3-word morning reset. Some mornings will not feel magical. You will wake up tired. You will wake up stressed. You will wake up with yesterday's worries still in your chest. When that happens, you need a quick reset, something that breaks the chain of negative thoughts before they set the tone. Here's a tool. Choose 3 powerful words that anchor you back to your purpose. For example, strong, focused, ready, calm, clear, capable, disciplined, driven, grateful. Say them out loud as you stand up. It may feel small, but it shifts your state. It reminds your body and mind that you are in charge. 3. The power of morning isolation. Not every morning should be spent surrounded by people, conversation, and noise. Some of your most powerful mornings will be in solitude, where you are unreachable, where your only companions are your thoughts, your pen, your breath, and your intention. This is where clarity comes. This is where your vision strengthens. This is where the future version of you whispers the next step. Isolation in the morning is not loneliness. It is leadership over your own mind. 4. Energy before information. Most people wake up and feed on information before they feed on energy. They open their phone and scroll before they've even had a sip of water. They read about politics before their body has stretched. They check email before their mind has focused. Flip the order. First, charge your energy. Drink water. Stretch or move your body. Breathe deeply. Step into sunlight if possible. Only after you've fueled your energy should you take in information. Because if you start with information, especially negative information, you're starting your day on defense. When you start with energy, you begin on offense. 5. Morning vision casting. Every morning is a blank page. Before you fill it with random scribbles, take 1 minute to see, clearly, the person you are becoming. Sit down. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself at the end of the day. What did you accomplish? How did you carry yourself? How did you handle challenges? See yourself winning. See yourself composed. See yourself walking through obstacles with quiet confidence. When you do this daily, something incredible happens. Your mind begins working toward that vision automatically. 6. The 1 domino method. The mornings that feel overwhelming usually mean you have too many things in your mind at once. Instead of trying to do everything, ask yourself, what's the 1 domino that, if I knock it down, makes the rest easier? It might be sending 1 email. It might be cleaning 1 space. It might be making 1 important call. That's the domino. Do it first. Momentum will follow. 7. The story of the 2 builders. 2 men begin their day building a house. The first man grabs his tools and rushes to start cutting wood. He works furiously, but after hours of effort, the pieces don't fit, the walls tilt, and frustration grows. The second man spends the first hour with no tools in hand. He studies the plans. He checks his measurements. He clears the workspace. Only then does he begin building. By sunset, his walls stand straight, his roof is secure, and his progress is steady. The lesson? In the morning, don't just start doing. Prepare your mind, your space, and your plan, and then execute. 8. Morning conversations matter. Who you talk to in the first hour can shape your mood for the entire day. If the first conversation you have is with someone negative, complaining, or fearful, you will carry that energy with you. Whenever possible, make your first conversation uplifting, even if it's with yourself. Say something out loud that sets the tone. Today will not control me. I will control today. 9. The small wins list. Big goals can feel heavy in the morning. They can even slow you down. Instead, create a list of 3 small wins you will accomplish before noon. These wins should be quick, can be done in 10 to 20 minutes, clear, you know exactly what to do, confidence building, they make you feel productive. When you knock out 3 small wins before noon, you build momentum for the bigger battles of the day. 10. Closing the morning strong. Most people drift from their mornings into their afternoons without noticing. Instead, mark the end of your morning with intention. This could be a quick walk, a short meditation, writing down what you've accomplished so far, a deep breath, and a silent thank you. Closing your morning with awareness locks in your progress and prepares you for the second act of the day. Final thought for part 4. Your mornings are not just about what you do, they are about what you allow. Allow distractions, and you'll lose the day. Allow negativity, and you'll lose your focus. Allow hesitation, and you'll lose momentum. But allow clarity, and you'll gain power. Allow discipline, and you'll gain freedom. Allow purpose, and you'll gain your future. Tomorrow morning is waiting. Make it yours. If you want, I can also prepare part 5 with the same flow and around 1,000 words so your series stays perfectly connected without losing momentum. Would you like me to go ahead with that next? Part 5. Whispers in the portrait room. Rain lashed against the tall windows of Hawthorne Manor, turning the glass into rippling mirrors. Nathaniel Hawthorne sat by the fire in the west parlor, his fingers curled around a crystal glass of brandy, his eyes fixed on the flames. He had not spoken much since the night of the seance. The memory of the knocking, the strange, breathy voice calling Isabella's name, still unsettled him. Tonight, however, Nathaniel had another unease gnawing at him. Earlier that morning, while walking through the gallery that housed the family portraits, he had heard something. Not footsteps, not the settling creak of wood, but a whisper, low, urgent, and coming from the farthest corner of the room. The gallery was a long, dim hallway lined with faces from generations past, stern judges, refined ladies, ship captains, and soldiers. At the end hung the largest portrait of all, a woman in an ivory gown, her hair swept high, a single pearl necklace resting against her throat. The plaque beneath read, Margaret Fairmont Hawthorne, 1793 to 1822. She had Isabella's eyes. Nathaniel had been staring at that painting when the whisper came. It was faint at first, almost like the sigh of fabric, but then he heard it more clearly. Not safe. He had stepped forward, his boots tapping the polished floor. Who's there? He'd asked, his voice echoing down the gallery. No answer. But as he drew closer to the portrait, he swore the woman's painted lips had shifted, ever so slightly, into something that was not a smile. That night, unable to shake the feeling, Nathaniel returned to the gallery with a lantern. The storm outside rattled the glass panes, and the shadows of the frames loomed long and crooked across the floor. He stopped before Margaret's portrait. The face in the painting looked calm again, but there was a strange shimmer in the eyes. I know you want to tell me something, Nathaniel murmured, unsure why he was speaking to paint and canvas. If you know where Isabella is, speak. The lantern flame flickered violently. For a moment, Nathaniel thought he heard the whisper again, but this time, it came from directly behind him. She's with the wrong man. Nathaniel spun around. The gallery was empty. The next morning, he shared what he'd heard with Abigail Fairmont, Isabella's cousin, who had stayed at the manor since her disappearance. Abigail was pale but determined, her hands clasped tightly around a teacup as she listened. "You mustn't go in there alone again," she said. "That part of the manor, my grandmother used to say it was the coldest place in the house because it's where the family's secrets settled." "What kind of secrets?" Nathaniel pressed. Abigail hesitated. "Margaret Fairmont, the woman in that portrait, was Isabella's great-great-aunt. The story in my family is that she vanished, just as Isabella has. Only they told people she died from fever." Nathaniel's breath caught. "Vanished? From this house?" Abigail nodded. "One stormy night in 1822. No body was ever found. They buried an empty coffin." The similarity was too great to ignore. Determined to find more, Nathaniel searched the manor's archives, a collection of ledgers, letters, and journals kept in a locked cabinet in the study. Among them, he found Margaret's diary. The final entry was dated October 14, 1822, written in hurried script. "He waits for me in the portrait room. I cannot keep our meetings hidden much longer. If they find out, there will be ruin. But he swears he will take me away from all of this, before it is too late." Nathaniel leaned back, staring at the ink. The words "he waits for me in the portrait room" sent a shiver down his spine. Was Isabella following the same path, nearly 50 years later? That night, Nathaniel resolved to return to the gallery one last time, but this time he would not be alone. He convinced Abigail to accompany him, reasoning that if anything happened, they could witness it together. The two of them entered the gallery near midnight. Their lanterns threw warm circles of light on the gilded frames. When they reached Margaret's portrait, Nathaniel noticed something strange. The pearl necklace she wore in the painting seemed brighter, as though freshly painted. Abigail gasped. "It wasn't like that before." Nathaniel stepped closer. "No, it wasn't." A sudden cold draft swept between them, extinguishing Abigail's lantern. She clutched his arm. "Nathaniel, do you hear that?" He did. The whisper. Louder now. "He's here." Abigail's eyes widened. "Who?" Before Nathaniel could speak, there was a sound like a soft knock, 3 times, coming from behind the wall where the portrait hung. They searched the edge of the frame, and Nathaniel's fingers brushed against a small latch cleverly hidden in the woodwork. With a firm push, a panel swung open, revealing a narrow, dust-choked passage. The air inside was heavy with the smell of old stone and damp earth. They stepped in, the light from Nathaniel's lantern casting long shadows on the walls. The passage turned sharply, then descended a steep, uneven staircase. Somewhere far below, water dripped steadily. And then, faint but unmistakable, came the sound of a woman sobbing. Abigail gripped Nathaniel's sleeve. "Isabella?" she called softly. The sobbing stopped at a pause. Then a voice answered, low, trembling, but undeniably familiar. "Yes, help me." Nathaniel's heart pounded. They hurried down the stairs, their footsteps echoing. The passage ended in a small underground chamber, lit only by a sliver of moonlight from a grated window high above. In the corner sat a figure in a tattered ivory dress, her hair loose, her face pale. It was Isabella. She looked up at them with wide, desperate eyes. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "He'll know you're here." "Who?" Nathaniel asked, kneeling beside her. "Who has you?" Before she could answer, a shadow moved in the doorway behind them. A man's voice, smooth and cold, cut through the air. "I was wondering when someone would finally follow the whispers." Nathaniel turned, lantern raised. But the man stepped forward into the light before he could speak. He was tall, dressed in an old-fashioned black coat, his hair dark and neatly combed, his face striking yet strangely ageless. Abigail gasped. "Nathaniel, that's the man in the portrait with Margaret in the east wing." The stranger smiled faintly. "Ah, so you've seen me before." Nathaniel's mind raced. The east wing had a pair of paintings, one of Margaret, the other of a man with the nameplate worn away. "I think introductions are in order," the stranger said smoothly. "I am Edward Blackwell. And you, Nathaniel Hawthorne, are standing in the middle of a story that began long before you were born." If you want, I can make part 6 the high-tension reveal where Edward Blackwell's connection to both Margaret and Isabella is exposed, and the true nature of the manor's curse comes out. Do you want me to continue directly? Part 6. Shadows that never leave. The courthouse clock in Millfield had always been a steady voice in the dark, its chimes marking the hours like a metronome for the living. But now, its rhythm felt wrong. Too slow. Too heavy. As if each toll was carrying more than time, it was carrying judgment. Sheriff Abel Price stood alone in the main hall of the Millfield courthouse, staring up at the spiral staircase. A week had passed since the last prisoner disappeared, yet the air still carried the same suffocating weight. It smelled faintly of iron, damp earth, and something sharper, like old smoke clinging to fabric. On the judge's bench, Harrison Crawford's gavel still rested in place. Abel could almost swear it shifted sometimes, as if moved between one blink and the next. He had stopped trying to explain such things. The courthouse didn't want explanations. It wanted obedience. The last witness, Martha Lane, the oldest woman in town, had been waiting outside the sheriff's office that morning. She carried a black shawl and a leather-bound journal tied with twine. "I saw something when I was a girl," she said, her voice trembling not from age, but memory. "And I kept it to myself. But now, I think the courthouse is waking again." She told Abel about a night in 1832, when she was just 12 years old. She had followed her father into the courthouse after dark. There was a light coming from the floorboards in the judge's chamber. She whispered, and voices speaking a language I'd never heard before. "My father," he knelt down, "Sheriff," like it was a church. Her father never spoke of that night, and soon after, 3 farmhands went missing, vanished from their beds without a sound. Martha slid the journal across the desk. Inside were sketches, drawings of the courthouse's basement, though Abel knew no basement existed on any official plans. The pictures showed a stone archway beneath the main hall and a circle of symbols carved into the floor. The descent that night, Abel took a lantern and went alone into the courthouse. The building creaked in protest, its wooden bones groaning under the strain of each step. When he reached the main hall, he felt a cold draft curling up from between the floorboards near the judge's bench. It took him hours. But he finally found it, hidden behind the far wall of the records room, a narrow stairwell leading down. The air grew colder with each step, the walls closing in until the lantern's flame guttered. The bottom was exactly what Martha had drawn, a circle of black stone, inlaid with silver lines forming shapes that hurt the eyes if stared at too long. Abel's boots crunched on something brittle. When he looked closer, he saw tiny bones scattered like spilled grains of rice. The gathering, he heard them before he saw them. Footsteps, measured, deliberate, coming from the darkness beyond the circle. Figures began to emerge. Judge Harrison Crawford in his long black coat, followed by men in faded uniforms and prison stripes. But their faces were wrong. Too pale. Their eyes like wet coal. "Sheriff Price," the judge said, his voice warm yet empty. "You've done well to find us." Abel raised his lantern higher. "Where are they? The missing men?" "They are with us," Crawford replied, "freed from their chains and given a greater purpose." He gestured toward the shadows, and Abel saw them, rows of silent, unmoving shapes. The missing prisoners, the missing witnesses, all standing with heads slightly bowed, as if in worship. "You can join them," Crawford offered. "Or you can stay above, watching the world decay, alone." The choice. For a moment, Abel almost stepped forward. There was a strange peace in their stillness, a temptation to simply stop fighting. But then he thought of Martha, of the families who still left lamps burning in their windows at night, waiting for someone who would never return. "No," he said. The judge's smile thinned. "Then you will carry the burden. You will remember. And you will never speak of this to anyone who matters." The lantern flickered out. Aftermath. When Abel awoke, he was lying in the main hall. The stairwell behind the records room was gone, replaced by an unbroken wall of plaster. The courthouse clock was ticking normally again. On the judge's bench, the gavel was gone. In the days that followed, life in Millfield returned to its slow rhythm. People stopped asking about the missing men. Even their names seemed to fade from memory, as though they had never lived here at all. Only Abel remembered. He kept Martha's journal locked away in his desk, visiting it only when the courthouse felt too quiet, too still. Sometimes at night, he would hear faint footsteps from the upstairs chambers, measured, deliberate, as if someone was still holding court in the darkness. Years later, on the first night of winter, long after the town had forgotten his name, Abel walked to the courthouse one final time. He stood in the main hall, feeling the weight of the ceiling above him, the pull of the shadows around him. Then, without ceremony, he placed Martha's journal on the judge's bench and walked away. The next morning, the courthouse stood empty. The gavel was back in place, and no one in Millfield noticed the sheriff was gone. Millfield Courthouse still stands today, its doors locked, its windows shuttered. But sometimes, if you press your ear to the wood, you'll hear it. Not the ticking of a clock, not the groan of old beams, but a voice, deep and slow, calling you by name. Call to action if you felt the chill of Millfield Courthouse tonight. Don't let the shadows keep it to yourself. Subscribe so you won't miss the next story that will keep you awake at night. Share this with someone who thinks old buildings are harmless. And in the comments, tell me, would you walk down those hidden stairs? Or would you turn back?